Okay, hey. I don't know where that's come from. I'm in a really good mood. Last week was not great, so I'm having a much better week this week. So I am a little bit. I'm taking it in. I'm taking it. There have been during the lockdown. There's been a few extra roles, in places, and so I have been using my elliptical machine. I think it's having the most use it's ever had in the last, I don't know, however many years I've had it. So that's putting me in a pretty good mood. And I've got my playlist that I put on when I get on it, and awesome, life's good. Okay, I'll stop dilly-dallying. My regulars, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome if it's the first time here. My name's Chiga. If I can speak, let's hope I can speak today. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's having a good week. It's great to have you here. Like the video, subscribe if you like what I say, and let's jump in. Let's get into it. So what I wanted to talk about today, doing a bit of reflection, trying to plan what to talk to you guys about today. So it's things that I've learned about the witness religion since I left. These are things that I didn't know when I was in there, which I suspect is the case for a lot of people. There are things that we found out only after we've left, and it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize, there was this history and all this stuff. And so I want to share some of mine with you. I want to hear yours as well. What have you found out since you left that either was shocking or you just didn't know it? Okay, I've written a list, and then I realized it might have made sense to have them in the order that I want to say it. And so I've then gone back and numbered them. So I'm going to be all over the notes today. But I thought I'd have them in chronological order in terms of the people it's related to and when it happened. For any of this, if I can find a screenshot of what I'm referring to, I'll insert it, or something in the description. I don't know yet. I won't make any promises. We'll see. Okay. So first thing I've put on the list, my point number 1 is I didn't realize how much Charles Taze Russell copied ideas from other people. So the start of his movement, he was so influenced by the Millerite movement. I think I have a video somewhere and that talks about Russell-like groups that sort of came up around the same time. So the Millerite movement influenced by people like Nelson Barber. I think we have George Storrs as well. So quite a few people that pretty much copied ideas from interpretation of certain scripture. And then when we turn around and say, after the death of the apostles, this is what we're taught. After the death of the apostles, true religion sort of died and it went through the dark period. And then Charles Taze Russell was the person that was chosen to bring it back up again, when literally he was copying stuff from some other people to kind of start with, and just the extent to which they had an impact. Yes, there's some literature where you would have to really go far back now to find literature where they actually refer to sort of the start in that level of detail, but to actually see how much influence those external people had, I didn't realize the full scale until I left. And it wasn't some special inspired thing where the creator of the universe went, you know what, it's been a few thousand years now, between the death of the apostles. I think it's time to get this thing going again. So I'm going to choose this guy and I'm going to, tell him, whisper in his ear, whatever I need to do and get it started. It wasn't quite like that. Okay. Point number 2, I didn't realize that Russell was into pyramidology. I suppose the most crazy idea of his that he had, thinking that he could work out when the world started and extrapolate from that when it was going to end by measuring the Pyramid of Giza. I knew nothing about that until I left. How he arrived at the year of 1914 when he thought, the world was going to end. Again, I think I have a video about that. If I don't have a video about end of world predictions, maybe I should make one. Maybe I should make one. But yeah, that's kind of how it arrived there. So he was into pyramidology, which at the time it was new agey, and there were people in that camp that sort of thought that. But of course, in hindsight, when we look at that now, it sounds completely crazy. But then when you say you have the creator of the universe whispering in your ear, we're going to expect you to have a bit more solid information, and that is simply not what happened. So that was point number 2. Point number 3, I didn't realize how much squabble there was after Russell passed away in 1916 to Rutherford taking charge. When they write it in the literature, they make it sound like, Rutherford was just the person, everybody sort of, that it was just seamless, but it was anything but. There was a lot of squabbling and fighting. People had to be fired and laid off. And basically, he just took charge, and it was quite messy. Again, these things are things you would expect from something that is man-made, and it would completely make sense. People are messy. Have you met humans? We are messy in all sorts of ways, and that's part of our spice, our fun, our excitement, the unpredictable nature of the thing we do. But when you want to claim to have the creator of the universe, handpicking you, you're gonna have to have something different that sets you apart, or that kind of shows that. And it's just not what we were told when we were in. It was very messy, and it was basically a power grab that got him in there. Okay, point number 4, staying on Rutherford. I had no idea about Bethsarim. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Bethsarim was a property, I believe it was in California, that Rutherford purchased, and the property document, he actually had them write in there that he was buying this property for the purposes of characters of the Bible. They were going to come stay there because, of course, the world was going to end, and they were, I think, was there David and Daniel from the Bible and things like that. I had no idea. I had no idea there was such a thing. I didn't find out until I'd actually left that. Whoa, this is crazy. But then the kind of sad thing about that, when there was the depression in the 1930s, and people were struggling globally, including members of his religion. He was living the life of luxury, going into this mansion, to say, driving fancy cars that he had purchased for himself, but it's all, part of the property for these Bible characters that were going to come back. Kind of not really good leadership, but that's a story for another day. I have a video about the relationship between Jehovah's Witnesses and money. It's a messy one. I'm going to link it somewhere. So yeah, I had no idea that was a thing, and it was funny and silly to find that out. And again, just kind of showing how man-made that was, especially if you consider that when Jesus Christ allegedly came to inspect the religions of the world and wanting to choose who was going to be anointed in 1919, Rutherford was the person in charge, and this is the belief that he held. So it's either he made it up himself or he was given bad intel from somewhere. None of it adds up. Sounds man-made, looks man-made, looks like something a person would do. Nothing different from what a lot of company CEOs and things do nowadays in terms of the disparity in money between themselves and their employees. But at least there we know what it is. There's no claim to some kind of divine aspect to it. It's simply a guy enriching himself. That's it. Okay, point number 5. I didn't realize that Rutherford wrote to Hitler. In the early days, I'm going to try and find the dates for this, leading up to the Second World War, before they started to get the heat, Rutherford actually wrote to Hitler offering support and sort of wearing this together, like, you are fighting the good fight, and which definitely did not age well. Definitely tones of anti-Semitism in what he wrote, and knowing what eventually happened, the horror that came off of Hitler's regime. It's kind of like, really, you are in this together, you're on the same page, are you sure? Again, is that thing of being just a guy who doesn't sound like a very nice person in some ways, because if you had any sort of divine inspiration, any sort of guidance behind you, someone who can tell the future, he would have told you that that's not a good move to do. So yeah, that happened. I didn't know that. I found out after I left, which was like, oh my goodness. Okay, so that was number 5. Point number 6, I didn't realize that Watchtower was a member of the United Nations for a period of time, around the 90s, early 2000s. And if you were raised in the religion like I was, if you were in the religion anywhere around, what are we on, 90s, 2000s, so pretty much around the time that they were members, they had the book Revelation, its grand climax at hand, that was being studied in the Congregational Book Studies, where they're trying to interpret the book of Revelation and what everything means. And the United Nations was part of Satan's system that was going to be destroyed, and they were not going to be any part of them. And so to then turn around and actually be a member, kind of hypocritical. And then even worse, when they were exposed for it, they withdrew immediately. Really dodgy, really like, okay, so you knew there was something off. And the excuse was they had to register, they had to be a member to have access to the library. And a lot of people have commented on this. I know you don't need to be a member to access the library. There's other ways to get it. If this group is what you say it is, do you really need to be part of it, considering the expectation you have of your members to be neutral and not part of the world? So it smacks of hypocrisy, something that they're clearly not letting their members know, something else that they're hiding, and especially the reaction when they were found out. So I didn't know of this until I left. Point number 7, let's see. Do we have a point number 7? Yeah, point number 7, that I didn't realize that 1975 was not just a fringe idea that some people had, because what they say is, some people had false expectations and they got carried away. They were trying to run ahead of the chariot, blah, 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 all the terms that they use. I didn't realize that actually that stuff was coming from the top. People didn't just make it up. There are accounts of it being, mentioned in conventions. I don't know the name of the person, but there's a popular quote from him where it was saying, try and stay alive till 75.
So Jehovah's word is in your mouth. This good news must be preached first, before Armageddon. There will be now a remaining few months, not really a full 83 months remains. So let's be faithful and confident, and we'll be alive beyond the war of Babylon. We will be alive beyond the war of Armageddon. Yes, brothers and sisters, by doing this, having plenty to do, we will be alive in God's new system of things, to live and share in the work for 1,000 years, and there will be plenty to do for the next 1,000 years.
I have done a video, I'm sure, where I have, so it's one about higher education, where, young people around the late 1960s are being told you're not going to get a chance to use any degree you have now, because in a few years everything's going to be over. So it wasn't just some fringe people. These came from the top. And I didn't know that until I left and actually did the research and realized, okay, this has come from you. You can't then turn around and spin it as something that just some fringe people thought and they were trying to run ahead of the organization. Lies. lies. And then the last one, which is it's not funny. The last one, I did not realize that the 2-witness rule applied to cases of child abuse. I didn't know. We hear of it. In my mind, it was something for when, two people have a dispute, two adult people. It didn't occur to me that it would be something that was being enforced in cases like that. even to the extent where the authorities wouldn't be called in. I mean, mind you, there was no reason for me to kind of get involved in that. And so I just didn't realize how much it since I've come out and, read about case after case after case, documentaries of people, being the recipients of this awful, awful policy and being impacted by it. I didn't realize that they were applying this to that, because it's completely stupid and shows a lack of insight and awareness into this very, very delicate subject, and shows complete incompetence in handling it, and they absolutely have no place dealing with stuff like it. So I had no idea that they were applying it to that as well. So that was my list of 8. If you have any things that you only found out after you left, I want you to comment below and let me know. If there's anything you're still finding out, if there's anything I said that shocked you and you didn't know before, comment. I want to hear. Let's have a conversation. Let's chat about it. If you just thinking about the last video that I made, talking about how to deal with family members that are still in there, and one of the first points I talk about is you need to do your research. You need to know why you left, not just on a whim, not just on a feeling, not just because someone upset you, but this is deep. And so it's good to have solid reasons, factual reasons why you're no longer convinced that this is the place that you want to be at. To a lesser extent, the whole thing about 607 versus 587 for when Jerusalem was captured, all my life I was taught that it was 607 BCE. And then you come out and realize, no, actually, almost everybody else thinks it was a different time. But they can't change that because that's tied into their 1914 doctrine. And so I guess in that sense, that's one they haven't admitted. But yeah, I didn't even know there was any dispute about that until I left. So it's things like this that altogether paint a picture of people that are just making it up as they go along. And for the demands that they make of people, it just isn't balanced. It just isn't justified. And in my humble opinion, I say it's man-made, and I want out, and I got out. And that's it. Okay, so I want to hear from you guys, or girls. What did you learn after you left? How did you feel about it? How did you take it? What was the most shocking? Share this video, give it a thumbs up so more people can see it and watch it. And if they're in the process of trying to make their way out as well, this might just nudge them along, be the trigger to encourage them to go do their own research and do more research, because we're definitely not told the whole picture when we're in there. It's carefully curated bits of information that's shared with us to fit a narrative, which I guess is what anybody would do. The ability to go beyond what they're offering you and actually see the picture, that's going to be massively important to the pursuit of truth, and something that is asking for your whole life. Literally, you got to check them out. You got to make sure they're absolutely spot on. I try not to waffle on. I am going to put some videos here for you to watch next if you're sticking around. Why not? See them, subscribe if you haven't. If you haven't, I don't know why. I don't know what I gotta do. I'm in a real cheerful mood. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Have a fab rest of the day. What are we on the 12th? Okay, so we're nowhere near the last Sunday of the month, which is where we have the live stream. I'm gonna remind you before that time so you can come interact with me, directly and have a chat and all that. Okay, talk soon.